My name is Hannah. Growing up, my father never remembered my birthday, but he threw elaborate parties for my sister every single year. For a long time, I told myself it didn't matter. This year, I stopped pretending. If you've lived something similar, tell me in the comments. My birthday fell on a Tuesday that year, wedged between a client deadline and an internal review I couldn't reschedule. By 10 in the morning, my calendar was already bleeding red blocks. The phone beside my keyboard stayed face down, unmoving, like it always did on that date. That part wasn't new. Robert had remembered my sister's birthday every year of my life. Mine never made it onto his mental list. Around noon, an email slid into my inbox from HR. "Happy birthday, Hannah." It came with a generic banner and a coupon code I would forget to use. A few coworkers clapped politely when they saw it pop up on the shared screen. Someone asked where I was going for dinner. I said I wasn't sure yet, which was true. 5 minutes later, Maya leaned over the divider and raised an eyebrow. "Is that today?" Before I could answer, my phone buzzed. Not a text, a notification from social media. My sister's face filled the screen, mid-laugh, standing under a balloon arch that probably cost more than my monthly groceries. The caption read, "Family first." Dad had tagged himself. The timing felt surgical. Later that afternoon, while I was reviewing numbers that refused to reconcile, Robert called. His voice sounded relaxed, the way it did when he assumed everything was settled. "Don't forget," he said, "we're doing your sister's birthday dinner this weekend, 7 o'clock. Be there on time." There was a pause, long enough for me to hear him breathe. "Today is my birthday," I said. "Oh." Papers shifted on his end. "Right, well, you don't really need a party." The words landed without force, like something he'd practiced. On my desk, a paper planner sat open to the week. My birthday was circled in pencil, faint enough that it could have been erased by accident. It hadn't been. "You're not the celebration type anyway," he added. After the call ended, the task list on my screen blinked back to life. I added a new line between "send revisions" and "follow up with legal." Buy my own cake. The family group chat lit up an hour later. Photos, screenshots, a confirmation email from a bakery downtown. The cake order had my sister's name in bold letters. The pickup date was that Tuesday. My phone chimed again, a new email, this one from Robert. "Wrong attachment," the subject line read. The PDF showed the same bakery invoice, same order number, same pickup time, different name, still the same date. By 4:30, I closed my laptop and told my manager I was taking the rest of the day. She nodded without asking why. Outside, the air felt heavy and ordinary. On the walk to my car, a reservation app loaded slowly, as if reconsidering. A small bar near 6th Street had space, nothing fancy, just enough room. I tapped Confirm Reservation. At the same moment, my phone started vibrating again, face down on the passenger seat, while the screen locked itself dark. The weekend passed without me driving back to my parents' house. No explanation, no apology, no invented excuse about traffic. Saturday morning came and went. By Sunday afternoon, the family group chat had filled the silence for me. "She's being sensitive," my aunt wrote. "Probably stressed from work," someone else added. No one asked where I was. No one mentioned the date on the calendar. Robert handled the rest in private conversations I wasn't part of. I found out later, through fragments that reached me anyway. He told people I'd always been independent, said I never liked noise or crowds, explained that some kids just weren't wired for attention, and I was one of them. My sister backed him up without realizing she was doing it. "She's fine," she told our mom, according to a text screenshot that made its way to me. "You know how she is." Monday morning at work, the office resumed its usual rhythm. The birthday banner from HR was gone. The coupon code expired quietly. A coworker asked how my day off had been. "Good," I said. Another one asked why I'd taken it alone. Plans changed. That was enough for them. People nodded, satisfied. Everyone had learned to accept short answers. The messages started trickling in by Tuesday afternoon. Not from family, but from cousins and second cousins who didn't want to get involved, but also didn't want to look heartless. "Hey, everything okay? Heard there was some tension. Did something happen? Not a single person asked how my birthday was. The question hovered around the edges, carefully avoided. After work, Maya texted, "Coffee?" We met at a place near the office that knew her order without asking. She listened without interrupting while I laid out the facts in plain order. No raised voice, no adjectives. When I finished, she nodded once. "That's not small," she said. "That's consistent." She took my phone from the table without asking and scrolled through the screenshots I'd saved out of habit more than intention. The bakery invoice, the group chat photos, the email timestamp. "You see this?" she said, tapping the date on the receipt. "Same day, same year, same pattern." I shrugged. Could be a mistake. Maya looked up. "Mistakes repeat once or twice. This is scheduling." She handed the phone back. "Save everything," she said. "Not to use, just to have." The barista called her name. When she came back with 2 cups, she added, almost casually, "At least your dad is consistent. That takes effort." The line landed sideways. I laughed before realizing I had. That evening, Robert texted, "Don't make this awkward. Family dinner Sunday." No greeting. No question mark, just a statement pretending to be an invitation. The timing was deliberate. Sunday dinner had always been the reset button. Show up, smile, let things slide back into place. Absence would be noticed. Absence would be labeled. Another message followed. Everyone expects you. I set the phone down and opened my calendar. Sunday was blocked in gray, marked weeks ago as family dinner. The reminder notification was scheduled for Friday morning, like a polite nudge toward compliance. The cursor hovered over it. Across the room, my laptop chimed with a new email, a client approval. Another deadline survived. Life, apparently, was still moving. The family chat pinged again, a photo this time. My sister in a dress she'd bought just for dinner. Robert's comment sat underneath. "Can't wait for everyone to be together." The word everyone felt generous, considering. Maya's voice echoed in my head, not as advice, but as observation. Consistent, scheduling, effort. The calendar entry disappeared with a soft click. In its place, a new block appeared, bright and unashamed. My birthday party, friends only. The time defaulted to 7. I didn't change it. My finger hesitated over the save button, while the phone on the table buzzed again, insistent, patient, certain I would respond if it waited long enough. The guest list came together faster than expected. Names filled the screen in a way that felt unfamiliar, almost indulgent. Coworkers from different projects, friends I'd met through Maya, a couple of people I hadn't seen in months, but who had shown up for me in smaller, quieter ways. Each name added felt deliberate. Each name not added felt even more so. No one from my family made the list. There was no dramatic moment attached to that choice, no shaking hands or long pause over a blinking cursor. The omission happened naturally, like skipping a step that had never actually belonged to the process. When the event went live, the platform suggested contacts I might want to include. My sister's profile photo hovered at the top for a second before disappearing when I hit publish. The comments started first, then the likes. Nothing explosive, just enough to make the post visible. A coworker shared it. Someone tagged someone else. The bar confirmed the reservation with a thumbs-up emoji that felt more personal than most of my relatives had managed all week. The realization didn't arrive all at once. It showed up in pieces, between notifications. The pattern was suddenly hard to miss. Years of staying agreeable, years of letting comments slide, years of not correcting the record when someone else explained my preferences for me. That silence had done more than keep the peace. It had cleared the way. Robert found out by Thursday afternoon. He didn't see the post himself. A friend from his gym recognized my name and asked if he was going. The call came an hour later. Why wasn't I invited? His voice sounded injured, not angry. That felt intentional. The question hovered, waiting for reassurance. I didn't think you'd need it, I said. There was a beat. That's not what I meant. It's what I heard. He sighed, long and practiced. "You know how this looks." "I do." The line went quiet on his end. When he spoke again, the warmth was gone. "We'll talk about this later." The call ended before I could respond. No follow-up text arrived, no clarification. The silence this time wasn't empty, it was strategic. The party itself was small, too small to hide behind. Maya arrived early and helped shift a few tables together. Someone brought a cake from a grocery store down the street. The frosting leaned slightly to one side, like it had given up halfway through the day. Nobody tried to fix it. When the candles were lit, a phone appeared in Maya's hand. "Hold on," she said. "Documentary evidence." The photo caught me mid-laugh. Shoulders turned, friends pressed in close. The cake sat between us, imperfect and intact. The candles leaned, stubbornly lit. I sent the picture to Robert. No caption, no explanation, just the image. Then the same photo went up publicly. The response was immediate and uneven. Messages from people who hadn't known what day it was. Comments congratulating me on finally celebrating. A few family members saw it and said nothing. Others reacted quickly. My sister called first. "Are you trying to make a point?" Her tone was confused, not hostile. "No," I said. "I'm having a birthday." Mom texted next. "Why didn't you tell us you were doing something?" The phone didn't stop after that. Cousins, an aunt, a number I didn't have saved. Each vibration stacked on the last. Explanations were expected, reassurances implied. The room stayed steady while the table filled with sound. Maya slid a plate toward me. "Before it melts." I nodded and leaned forward. The first thing that disappeared was the family group chat. One moment it sat where it always had, muted but present. The next, it was gone, replaced by a blank space where the thread used to live. No notification, no explanation, just absence. A private message followed a few minutes later. "If you're going to act like this, don't expect us to chase you." Robert's name sat above it, clean and final. No punctuation, no follow-up. The timing was deliberate. The party photos were still circulating. People were still reacting. The story was being adjusted in rooms I wasn't invited into. By the next evening, I learned there had been a gathering. Sunday dinner moved up a day. Same table, same chairs. My absence wasn't an oversight. It was part of the agenda. No one called to tell me. No one checked whether I was coming. Later, fragments filtered through anyway. My sister mentioned it casually in a text to a cousin, who forwarded it to me without comment. Apparently, my attitude had come up. So had my timing. Words like dramatic and unnecessary were used. Someone suggested I'd embarrassed the family. Robert framed it carefully. He didn't raise his voice. He didn't need to. He explained that I'd made things public when they should have stayed private, that I'd forced people to pick sides, that I had always preferred being different, and this was just another example. The version of me they discussed sounded familiar enough to be believable. The box arrived 2 days later. It was left with the front desk at my building, no note attached. My last name was written in thick marker on the side, slightly crooked. The tape had been cut and reattached, as if someone had second thoughts halfway through sealing it. Inside were things I recognized immediately. A sweater I'd left behind years ago. A book I never finished. A stack of cards with unopened envelopes, their edges yellowed from age. Birthday cards. All of them. Each one still had a price sticker on the back. At the bottom of the box sat a small pastry container. The plastic had clouded with time. Inside was a single cake, no bigger than my hand, wrapped carefully in wax paper. The receipt was folded underneath. The date printed at the top matched my birthday. Not this year, another one. Then another tucked behind it. Different years, same date. The cake hadn't been forgotten. It had been bought, held, put away. Maya came over after work. She didn't say much at first. She set the box on the table and went through it with me, piece by piece. No commentary, no reaction beyond what the items required. When she reached the receipts, she stopped. "This wasn't an accident," she said. "He didn't forget. He decided." The words landed heavy but clean. No spin, no comfort built into them. I nodded once. Messages continued to arrive that week, filtered through side channels. A cousin suggested I apologize to keep the peace. An aunt asked whether I'd considered how this made my parents feel. No one mentioned the box. No one asked about the cake. Robert didn't reach out again. The silence wasn't passive. It carried shape. Boundaries had been redrawn without my input, and the expectation was clear. Return to the version they preferred or remain on the outside. At work, things stayed normal. Deadlines didn't shift. Meetings started on time. The contrast made the rest sharper. One night after dinner, the laptop came out and opened on the kitchen table. The box sat nearby, half emptied, its contents spread in careful rows. The receipts were stacked last. A new folder appeared on the desktop. No dramatic title, just a year. My birth year. Screenshots went in first, then the invoice PDFs, then photos. Each file saved without ceremony, no renaming, no sorting beyond what was necessary. The folder stayed open on my laptop long after midnight. The screen dimmed once, then brightened again when the mouse moved. Files sat there in a clean grid, labeled by date, not emotion. Screenshots, PDFs, message threads, calendar entries pulled from old backups I hadn't touched in years. Clicking through them felt procedural. Each item opened, closed, then made room for the next. A bakery invoice from 7 years ago. A text from Robert that read, "Next weekend works better." A calendar reminder I deleted without thinking at the time. The pattern didn't jump out dramatically. It lined up calmly, almost politely. At some point, the repetition stopped feeling accidental. There were notes in my phone from years back, too. Not diary entries, just short lines tied to tasks. Dinner went fine. Didn't make a big deal. All good. Those phrases showed up more than once, sometimes next to dates that mattered, sometimes next to nothing at all. It wasn't hard to see what they had in common. For a long time, "It's fine" had been my default response. Not as a lie exactly, more like a habit, something that smoothed things over before anyone had to feel uncomfortable. Silence did the rest. Silence kept conversations short. Silence kept expectations low. That approach had worked in other parts of my life. At work, it translated to reliability. With friends, it meant flexibility. In my family, it became proof of something else entirely. Maya stopped by the next evening with takeout and no agenda. She set the bags down, glanced at the open laptop, and didn't ask to see anything. The files were already there, doing their job. "You notice the spacing?" she asked, nodding toward the screen. I scrolled back to the oldest invoices, then forward again. Each birthday for my sister sat neatly on the timeline. The orders were placed days after messages from me, back when I still reminded people. Texts that said, "Just a heads up, my birthday's coming up," followed by silence, then confirmation emails for someone else's party. They didn't overlap, Maya said. They followed. The sequence was clean. Ask, wait, redirect. That's not muscle memory, she added. That's a choice made more than once. Food went untouched while the screen stayed open. The realization wasn't loud. It didn't knock anything over. It settled instead, fitting into a space that had been cleared out a long time ago. Silence hadn't kept the peace. It had kept the image intact. Robert's role in all of it made more sense once that clicked. He hadn't needed to argue or deny anything. My restraint did the work for him. Every time I let a comment pass, it reinforced the version of him that never did anything wrong. The reasonable parent, the one who meant well. The cost of that restraint hadn't shown up all at once. It showed up in missing invitations, in decisions made without checking, in assumptions repeated until they sounded factual. The idea that not asking for anything made me mature had been convenient. It also erased me from the equation. Maya watched while I moved files into subfolders, grouping them by year instead of type. "So what do you want now?" she asked. Not what should happen, not what would fix things, just what I wanted. "I don't want to be invited back," I said. The words came out flat, without heat. That surprised me. I want the record straight, I added. I don't want him telling this story for me anymore. Maya nodded once. That's different. She didn't try to soften the next part. If you do that, she said, you won't be the easy one anymore. The implication sat there, unchallenged. The role I'd played for years came with benefits, less conflict, fewer expectations. Letting it go meant losing that protection. I know, I said. The price was clear. No more benefit of the doubt. No more quiet exits. Once the pattern was named, there would be no comfortable way to unname it. After Maya left, the laptop stayed open. The folder name didn't change. It didn't need to. The contents spoke well enough on their own. A new email window opened, blank except for the subject line. Family event, Austin. No recipients yet. No body text. Just a placeholder waiting to be filled or closed. The call came 2 days after the draft email sat untouched. Robert didn't text first this time. He called, mid-morning, during a gap he knew I'd have between meetings. Can we talk? His voice was careful, not apologetic, calibrated. There's nothing left to clarify, I said. I think there is, he replied. Just you and me. We met the following evening at my parents' house, though he framed it as neutral ground. Mom wasn't there, neither was my sister. The living room looked staged, like it had been tidied specifically to suggest calm. Robert didn't sit right away. He paced, hands clasped behind his back. This has gotten out of hand, he said. The pictures, the comments. People are asking questions. They're responding, I said. There's a difference. He stopped pacing and faced me. You made something private into a public spectacle. I went to a bar with friends, I said. You did the rest. His jaw tightened. The silence stretched just long enough to signal that we were switching topics. You don't understand how this looks, he said again, slower this time. Our family has always handled things internally. That wasn't handling, I said. That was avoiding. He waved it off. You didn't need a party, he said. That's what this comes down to. The sentence landed differently this time, not as dismissal, as instruction. I looked past him at the framed photos lining the wall. My sister at graduations, my sister at work events, my sister holding oversized checks and awards. I was there too, occasionally, positioned at the edge of group shots, cropped when necessary. The structure was suddenly obvious. This was never about cake. It was about visibility. You didn't forget, I said. You just didn't need me in the picture. Robert exhaled, long and irritated. You're reading too much into it. No, I said. I finally read it correctly. He shifted tactics. I need you to take those photos down, he said. This should stay a private family matter. The phrasing was neat, reasonable. It sounded like concern. What happens if I don't? I asked. His tone softened. You know how much your mother relies on us, he said, and some of your relatives. They don't need unnecessary stress. There it was, the real leverage. Not anger, not guilt. Responsibility redirected. If you keep pushing this, he continued, you'll put people in uncomfortable positions. That wouldn't be fair to them. The message was clear enough. Speak up, and the consequences wouldn't land on him. For years, that threat would have worked. Silence had always been justified as protection. Don't cause problems. Don't rock things. Don't make it harder for everyone else. This time, it landed flat. You're asking me to disappear so the story stays clean, I said. I'm asking you to be reasonable, he replied. We stood there, facing each other, both aware the conversation had moved past birthdays entirely. Control had always been the point. The parties, the explanations, the way my absence had been edited into something flattering. The bakery invoices made sense now. The cakes hadn't been forgotten or misplaced. They were backups, bought just in case the image needed adjusting, then set aside when it didn't. Take the photos down, he said again, and we'll talk. Talk about what? I asked. How I should act next time? He didn't answer. The quiet that followed wasn't heavy. It was clear. When I left, the house felt smaller than it ever had. The door closed behind me without ceremony. Outside, the air was still warm, unchanged by any of it. Later that night, my phone buzzed with messages from relatives who had clearly been briefed. Carefully worded reminders about family unity. Notes about misunderstandings. No one addressed the receipts. No one mentioned the box. Maya called while I was sorting files, the folder expanding with every new screenshot. "So," she said, "how'd it go?" "He wants the photos gone," I said, and my silence back. "That tracks," she replied. I told her about the conversation, about the leverage, about the way concern had been used as pressure. "That's the whole system," she said. "You stepping out messes with the balance." "I know." She paused. "What are you going to do?" The answer had already formed, steady and unremarkable. "I'm going to show up," I said, "where he can't edit it." Robert texted the next morning. "Let's discuss this with everyone present. Clear the air." A family meeting. Expanded. Framed as reconciliation. I stared at the message for a moment, then typed back a single word. "Okay." The house was already full when I arrived. Cars lined the street the way they used to for holidays, tight and orderly. Inside, familiar voices overlapped, careful and polite. Chairs had been pulled closer to the dining table to make room. My mother sat near the end, hands folded, eyes flicking up when I walked in. My sister avoided my gaze entirely. Robert stood at the head of the table, already mid-conversation, already in position. "Let's all just talk this through," he said when he noticed me. "Clear the air." I nodded once and set my bag down by the chair I'd chosen. The laptop came out first, then the folder of printed papers. No one commented on either. The silence around those objects felt intentional. Someone suggested coffee. No one moved to make it. We sat. Robert opened with a practiced tone, the one he used when he wanted to sound fair. "We're here because things got misunderstood," he said. "Feelings were hurt. That happens. But we're family." A few heads nodded. The word family did a lot of work in that room. "I don't want to argue," I said. "I just want to put something on the table." The phrase landed softly, but it stopped him mid-sentence. The first stack of papers slid across the wood toward the center. Bakery invoices, reservation confirmations, calendar screenshots, printed clean and neat, dates circled, years visible. "These are party orders," I said, "for my sister, over the years." Robert leaned back, unimpressed. "Coincidences," he said. "You're connecting dots that don't belong together." The second stack followed. Screenshots from the family group chat, photos, captions, the same pattern repeating. "Misunderstandings," he added. "You're overthinking it." No one else spoke. My mother stared at the table. My sister shifted in her chair. The laptop came next. It opened with a familiar chime and turned so everyone could see the screen. An inbox appeared, filtered by sender. "These are my emails," I said, "sent before those orders were placed." One by one, I opened them. Subject lines stayed plain. Dates stayed visible. Messages that said, "Just a reminder," and "My birthday's next week," sent days before the invoices that followed. The sequence did not require explanation. Robert leaned forward now. "Why does this even matter?" he said, sharp and sudden. "So what if dates line up? This is petty." There it was, the slip. Not denial, dismissal. "Because you kept telling me it didn't," I said. The words weren't raised. They didn't need to be. The room went still. Someone cleared their throat and stopped halfway through. My sister looked down at her hands. My mother pressed her lips together, then apart, then closed them again. Robert pushed his chair back. "This is ridiculous," he said. "All this effort over nothing." He stood, gathering himself, anger breaking through the composure he'd held until then. "You always do this," he added, pointing at me. "You take something small and turn it into a problem." I didn't respond. There was nothing left to add. He reached for the stack of papers, then thought better of it and let his hand drop. The laptop stayed open, emails frozen on the screen, dates impossible to argue with. Robert shook his head, muttered something under his breath, and walked out of the room. The front door opened, then closed, hard enough to echo down the hall. No one followed him. The papers stayed where they were, spread across the table like something unfinished. My mother stared at them now, really looked. My sister swallowed and reached for one of the invoices, then stopped. The air felt heavier, but not tense, more like something had finally been named. A cousin shifted in his seat. "I didn't know," he said, not to anyone in particular. I closed the laptop and slid it back into my bag. The shift didn't happen all at once. It showed up in small, observable ways, the kind that didn't need commentary to feel real. The family group chat stayed silent for days, then resumed without Robert steering it. Questions went unanswered until someone else responded. When plans were made, no one waited for him to frame them. At Sunday dinners I no longer attended, people stopped asking Robert to explain my absence. Eventually, they stopped asking him to explain anything at all. Conversations moved forward without a designated interpreter. My mother made decisions on her own. Relatives spoke directly to each other instead of through him. My sister noticed it before anyone said it out loud. She started asking questions that didn't come with assumptions attached, not apologies, just pauses where certainty used to be. She didn't call to defend him. She didn't call to defend herself either. The change sat between us, unaddressed, but present. Robert didn't rage or demand a follow-up meeting. He didn't apologize. He also didn't reach out again. The control he'd relied on had loosened, and there was no clean way to grab it back without reopening everything he wanted closed. No one yelled. No one declared sides. The story simply stopped moving the way he'd arranged it. I didn't ask for an apology. I didn't offer one. There was nothing productive left in that exchange. When relatives reached out, the conversations stayed narrow. Work updates, health check-ins, neutral ground. Forgiveness, if it existed at all, stayed aimed away from him. It belonged to my mother, to people who hadn't built the structure but had lived inside it. The distance held. The family group chat disappeared from my phone entirely a week later. I didn't announce the exit. The number change came next, handled quietly through my carrier. A few people noticed. Most didn't. Life adjusted around the absence without collapsing. At work, nothing shifted. Projects closed, new ones opened. Maya stopped by less often, not because things were wrong, but because they didn't need monitoring anymore. When she did come by, we talked about travel instead of family. Next year, we decided, would be different. A shared calendar invite went out to a handful of names. No restaurant, no dress code, just flights and a rented place with uneven floors and a kitchen big enough to matter. The destination wasn't special. The plan was. Back at home, the laptop stayed open late one night while files finished syncing. The folder had grown thicker over time, more out of habit than necessity. Before closing it, I renamed it. Family Event, Austin. Under notes, one line appeared. Recurring. No reminder needed. The file saved without complaint. The apartment I moved into later that year was smaller, fewer shared walls. The kitchen light flickered if left on too long. It worked. On my birthday, a cake sat on the counter, same size as before, store-bought, no inscription. The receipt stayed folded in the bag. Messages came in throughout the day, friends, co-workers, a cousin who kept things simple now. None of them asked where I'd be. None of them assumed. That night, the plate went down on the table. One candle leaned to the side, stubborn as ever. The flame caught, steady. The phone stayed face down. Air filled my lungs and left again as I leaned forward and blew the candle out. Smoke curled briefly, then disappeared. The light went off, the door closed behind me from the inside, and the room held.